Hey y'all, this is Isaiah from Legacy Room. I know it's been a while, but we have an astounding special guest today. She runs a nonprofit called We Can't to We Can. She has had multiple awards, ranging from the Russ Berry Award, the 40 Under 40 Businesswoman Award, and the Humanitarian Award, and many more. So we'd like to welcome Trinity.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
No problem. How are you today? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Tired. I was hanging out with my friends for a really long time.
Long day?
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of interviews that you're in, and I kind of want to change it up a little bit, have a different flow.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about different points in your life, right?
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the foundation,
Ooh.
right? So everyone has a foundation in your life, right?
Yeah.
So for you and yourself, not the nonprofit, not everything you have going on in your life, but for Trinity herself, what is your foundation and what helps you keep that foundation stable?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't mean to be super cliche, but definitely God.
Of course.
But I would kind of like to expand on that and say like my relationship with God has been my foundation. I grew up in a very Christian household, and with that a single mother as well. So we had a lot of those morals and principles put into us at a really young age, and we were always taught to strive for whatever we put our minds to and stop at nothing to get to it. And so with that has always been my foundation. It's made me. I don't really take no for an answer, both good and bad. And so with those principles and my foundation with my relationship with God has really built.
It's all good.
Has really made me the person that I am today. And that obviously shows up in my work and my relationships with people. But yeah.
That's a good answer. I like that.
Thanks.
All right, so building upon your foundation, how do you build upon that? Because like you said, everyone says the cliche answer, God is in my life. But how do you build upon that, and how do you allow God to be in everything that you do?
It's definitely something that is an everyday choice, an everyday decision, and an everyday work in progress. I feel like every single day I'm learning more and more about how I can do that better, how my relationship with God can continue to show through me and in my business and in my relationships. I truly think that the only way to build on that is through experience, have hard conversations, get counsel from people, continue to put yourself in situations that maybe you wouldn't normally put yourself in. I think it's really important to get out of your comfort zone, because staying in your comfort zone doesn't teach you anything. So once you step out of that, that's when you start to build your foundation or build on top of that. So, yeah.
That's good. So now that we stemmed upon your foundation, I want to talk about We Can't Till We Can. I remember, if nobody knows this, me and Trinity met at one of my networking events that we had. So Legacy, we had a networking event at Mount Laurel Community Center, and out of nowhere, Trinity's helping clean up the event, helping organize the event. I'm thinking, yo, what's going on? Who's this? I don't know who this is. A dear friend of ours, Ricardo Dale, he came in, invited a lot of people, and she was one of them. And me and her were just talking about a lot of stuff. And one of the things I was brought upon was your nonprofit, because we were thinking about being a nonprofit, thinking of being a for-profit business. We're still in the works with that because of a lot of logistics stuff going on. But you're one of our mentors. That's why we kept asking you questions about it. So just touch upon what We Can't Till We Can is and how to come about.
Yeah. I think it's really important too, like the way that you met me is exactly who I am. God calls us to have a servant's heart. And if who I am is reflected into my business, if you meet me first off of serving your business and serving the event and just serving people who need it, then you know my business is also doing the same thing. And so From We Can to We Can serves people with disabilities. And I've been doing that for the past almost 7 years now. And the full name of it is From We Can to We Can. And I started it because of my best friend who has spinal muscular atrophy.
Ooh, so what is I'm going to butcher that. Spider must. I'm not even pronouncing.
You can just shorten it and say SMA.
SMA. So what is SMA for the people that don't know about it, so we can understand what it is?
SMA is a muscular disease where it eventually, your muscles weaken over time. So your muscles are already born, like if you're born at 100% capacity with your muscles, someone with SMA might be born at 17%, 20%, 50%, whatever it is. They're muscles are just a lot weaker than someone that doesn't have the disease. And so with that, my best friend Alexis was born with this disease. Her family had no clue that they were carriers of it until she was born. But they found out that she had it because at 2 years old, she was only crawling still.
Really?
And and they're like, all right, well, this is not how it's supposed to be. So once they got her tested, they found out she had SMA. So she never walked, but she was able to do things like draw and feed herself and text and do her own makeup. But over time, those things were stripped away from her. So
that's deep.
SMA sucks.
That's okay. And I love that cause because, as I told you before when we had that conversation, I have a brother with autism, so I know special needs. I've been in special needs all my life. He's only a year younger than me, so my whole childhood growing up, I got to experience how hard it is for a lot of these people, how even though they can express, a lot of them can't express how excluded they are from the norm. Because people say that we're normal, they're excluded from the norm. And yes, we treat them with care. Yes, we do all that stuff. But I see on a day-to-day basis with my brother, and I'm just talking about from personal experience of how hard it is for them. They cannot vocalize it sometimes. They cannot physically show it a bunch of the times, but it's very hard for them. So that's when you told me about your brand and told me about your nonprofit and what you're doing on a daily basis to help improve the lives of people with disabilities. Is really wonderful. So I want to applaud you for that.
Thank you.
And then B, tell me about the author stuff, because a lot of people really don't know that you're an author. They just think weak-handed, we can't, and they see you take care of a lot of people, but they don't understand a little bit about the author stuff. So touch on that a little bit.
So I started the nonprofit organization with Alexis in mind. Like you said, there was a lot of exclusion that I saw with her. We've been best friends for almost 20 years now, and with that, I just had a firsthand experience of what it could be like to have a disability in an able-bodied world. And so there were things like we were really secluded to just far few and in between things that we could actually do. We could go to the mall, we could go to restaurants, we could go to the skating rink, but it was like things outside of that. It was really hard to find things to do. And so with that accessibility issue, there were other things like resources. It was really hard for her to get essential resources that she needed because the disability community is an underrepresented community. And also just, is it under-marginalized? I'm going to say that. I don't want to say that wrong. And underserved is what the words are. And then I think they're also a marginalized group, but I just won't say that part. So with that, they're also misrepresented. And so I wanted to try to find ways to be able to represent them in the entertainment industry. At the time that I started thinking about starting the nonprofit was in 2014 when Alexis went through a really big health battle. And so with that, we watched every single movie that there was on the hospital plethora display. And I had realized there wasn't a single person with a disability that she could look up to during this time, not a single one. And this was 2014. So nowadays we see a lot more of it, but still never the main character, hardly ever. And so I reached out to Disney directors, I wrote them a letter, and I asked them to make a Disney princess or a Disney prince with a disability. And their lack of response pushed me to start the nonprofit in 2017. But I knew I wanted to create that representation. And the only way I knew how to do that was through illustration and books. And I'm a senior in high school, so I don't have all of these technical things to be able to make this happen at my fingertips. At least I didn't think so. But I had a will, and I think that's really all. That's where it starts with. I had the will and I had the determination, and I knew that it needed to be done. And so with that, I did my research. I still, even thinking back, like 17 years old, it was really like thinking about how to illustrate children's books and what I needed to do to be able to get that done. And I found like a really cheap like Illustrator author pad that was like this big. And my grandmother bought it for me, and I watched some YouTube videos, and I figured out how to publish at 17 years old. And so I illustrated these books. I illustrated 4 of them. I write all of the books, and all of our books are based on real kids with disabilities. So we wanted to keep that. For me, it was important to keep that authentic representation, because when we were seeing disabilities represented in the media, it was typically by people who were not disabled, which makes no sense. And so I started reaching out to people who I knew were disabled, the kids, and I really asked for their input on their superhero characters and their stories and things like that. And so, for example, we have Zappy Zane, which is actually based on Alexis's brother.
Really?
Yeah, because he also has SMA, which is really
That's
crazy. Yeah. And so I asked him what his favorite color was. I asked him, you know, what he wanted in the book, what his favorite things were. And so I was able to pull from that and get creative ideas and start to really write out these books. And so I wrote 5 of them, and I illustrated 4 of them, and then we partnered with Colgate. So we redesigned them. Yeah, we redesigned them, and so now we have a 6 on the way. So, yeah. It's definitely a goal to keep going with these books and eventually turn these series into a television series, because that's the goal, is to get into animation and to get into TV or on the big screen.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That, for me personally, that's beautiful, because like I said, they don't get represented the way they do.
Doesn't.
And then a lot of people say, oh, well, he has this or she has this. They're always similar to somebody. They're not. Like, every person with a disability or every person that has a special need, they're different in their own right. No one's the same way. And then because they generalize it a lot, they're left out and they are excluded. So I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you.
I really appreciated that.
Thank you.
So next we're going to really talk, we're still going to talk about your nonprofit, but what were the troubles in the process now and before that you didn't know how you want to face it, and what did you do when you faced it? Because like you said, you talked about how you reached out to Disney and they was giving you a lack of response and you just did it on your own. What are some other things a lot of people don't know about either starting nonprofits or even in journeys when things are hard? What do you do to face them? Do you face them head on? Do you wait for the rock to come and then you do it? Or do you just wait till the boulder goes over and you just roll over afterwards? Like, what's your take on adversities, especially when it comes to your nonprofit?
That's really good. I feel like starting out at 17 years old, I think teenagers have this grit about them, whether it's with a business, whether it's with life. Like, we have this headstrong mentality where we're just doing whatever we want to do. And so that's kind of the mindset that I was at when I was first starting out. The biggest problem that I had when I started out was the finances. And so I had, at the time, worked for Wawa, and I think I was only working for them for about a year, but everything that I was what I was making from that job, I was putting back into the business. So it was fairly easy to start up a nonprofit, but I would say something that's hard about a nonprofit is maintaining it in the way that it's supposed to be maintained, because it's not a regular business. You can't just kind of do what you want with it. It has to be regulated in a certain way. It has to be maintained in a certain way. So that's definitely something that's rough, but we have a great team that's helping me with those things. So I definitely said in the beginning that was something that we faced some issues with, as far as, you know, being so young and trying to maintain something that's so big. And so we have the team that really helps with that now. As far as how I handle things now with a nonprofit, I definitely feel like I kind of wait for the problems to come if they were to come. I wouldn't say there's anything like big that we have. I feel like for every nonprofit, the biggest thing is finances, because we're not selling a product, we're selling a vision, and we have to hope people believe in that.
You was talking about team, you was talking about you have a team that handles a lot of stuff. What I want to know, you're young, you're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. What's some adversities when it comes to gaining respect? Because when you're young, a lot of people don't respect you. A lot of older people want to denounce you, want to bury you to the ground, like you don't have enough skin in the game. What are you talking about? So how was that for you as a woman, of course, too? Because you're a woman of color. We're both people of color, but especially for women, because a lot of men, they just denounce women. We might do it psychologically, we might do it physically, but how was that for you? How did you gain the respect?
Yeah, definitely woman of color is one, and then being so young was two, in an industry that, you know, I'm talking to CEOs, I'm talking to people who own multi-millionaire companies, and I want them to be able to invest and understand what I'm doing, and to gain that respect not only from people who could possibly be our sponsors, but just people who want to support us overall, and to see our vision the way that we see it. The biggest adversity was being young. I felt like every time that I went and brought my nonprofit to a company, in the sense of if I was presenting or speaking, it always felt like afterwards someone would come up to me and ask questions like, oh, well, what college are you going to? Are you going to go to college? And it always bothered me a lot because it was like I just talked about this entire big dream, and then I still have someone coming up and being like, well, what else are you going to do? And that was definitely something that I had to get used to because people weren't seeing people like me doing something like this. And so at first, I definitely took offense to it, but now I think it's almost a compliment in a way that people are not used to seeing people like me doing the things like I'm doing. And so it's kind of like a far-fetched idea to them. And so I feel like I'm kind of breaking that mold and breaking stereotypes and showing up in ways that maybe people aren't usually used to seeing. And so that's kind of how I took that.
How did that click for you, though? How did it go from you felt insulted to having a mindset change to where now it's, okay, I'm low-key threatening these people because of how confident I am going to. I'm super young. Yes, at first, I hate these people. Like, I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do. But a mindset just flipped and said, hey, I'm going to switch it to a positive. How did that happen for you? Because you just explained your why. So how did that go for you to flip it off like that? I say flip it off.
I have a very specific story, but it's
Okay.
a little inappropriate. It was a comment that was made. So I am a leader at a Christian camp every summer. And I bought I bought almost all of the kids there, like whatever they asked for, because they can't leave for an entire week because they're supposed to be there. So sometimes some of the counselors will run out and might maybe grab some snacks or something like that. So there's maybe 150 something kids there, maybe less, but it's a large amount of kids there. And so, again, always used to comments, just, she's running this nonprofit, she's a kid, like things like that. But this example specifically, whether it was the way that it was told to me and God kind of interpreted it to me, I'm not sure. But I had bought a lot of snacks and things like the kids have wanted. And I had heard that a comment was made that it was like, oh, wow, Trinity bought like all these snacks for these kids. Like, how is she able to do that? She must sell explicit photos. And it took everything in me to not respond. Like, I had no response to it. Because, and this is what God teaches you, like, when he gives you peace beyond all understanding, something where the devil or the enemy is trying to shake you, like that could have torn me apart because I know what I'm doing, but I didn't. And then it was like, okay, I'm doing something so unbelievable, but that they have to come up with something else. Like, she must be doing this in order to get this. And so I just started taking those things as like a compliment. Like, they're not used to seeing these things. So the brain has to fill in the spaces of things that don't make sense. And so that's where that mindset switch came in.
I like that. I like that.
It was rough. It was rough, but yeah.
Especially as a woman, I can't imagine. I can't fathom. I can only empathize how.
Yeah. Even
crazy.
saying it now, I was just like, I can't let the enemy try to take that from me.
I got you. So recently, especially because it was a Women Awareness Month in March, I saw you doing a bunch of awards. How was that feeling to you? I want to change up the mood after you just it got vulnerable with us. But how was that when you're getting? Let's go by the step-by-step process. You're on a nonprofit. You're not respected. You're doing all this work for it, but you're not doing it for these awards. You're not doing it for the recognition. You're doing it for a certain cause. And now, after all the work that you're putting in, you're finally getting recognized for almost 10 years of work, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting recognized, 10 years after the fact, but every single day, those 10 years, you're putting in the work. How does that feel?
I think it feels good because of the fact that every time that I'm mentioned, I kind of take it as this is an opportunity for the nonprofit to have a spotlight. It's really hard for me to conceptualize that I'm getting the award. Yeah. Like, if you hear me talk, most of the time, if not all the time, I'm always saying we.
I've been doing that lately, yeah.
And it's a mindset thing where it's not just I. It's not just I. These awards, these accomplishments are because so many people came along the way and decided to put my name somewhere, or because God intricated a lot of these opportunities. And so it never feels like an I thing. It just feels like an opportunity for me to bring awareness to what I'm doing. But I definitely also feel like it is a nice pat on the back that, yeah, like my work is being recognized. And I truly call it my heart work, because it's my heart in it. It's hard work too, but it's 100% my heart work. Because without that, I think you have hard work, but that combined with passion, it's unstoppable.
That's nice. I like that. Hard work and hard work. That's combined. So for you personally, right, how do you compartmentalize your personal life and your work life? How do you have that balance? Because a lot of people, they get it conflicted. They don't know how to say, hey, I need time for myself. A lot of people say, nah, I'm going to work 24/7. I'm a workaholic myself. I can't sit down and just relax. My mind does not allow me to do that. I use that as a superpower. I don't use that as a crutch. But for you yourself, how do you compartmentalize that? And how do you say, hey, how do I keep that work-life balance?
That's really good. I didn't have that at first. Definitely starting out, I was 110% working from the time that I opened my eyes to the time that I closed my eyes. And someone came along in my life and told me that I was really going to miss out on enjoying my 20s if I didn't start making time for the fun things in life and the enjoyable things in life. And they were 100% correct, because once I stepped out of only working all the time, that's when I found my Christian community, and it's been a beautiful thing. And now I feel like I kind of have it flip-flopped, where I might hang out too much and not work enough, because the days that I am working, it's a long day. It's always a long day when I am working. But I feel like when I do get these opportunities to go and hang out with my friends, and even if it's spontaneous, like yesterday we had a game night and it didn't end until 5 o'clock in the morning, which is absolutely wild. But that might be my hangout and my release for the next 5 days where I'm working. So that's kind of how I've learned to balance that, to actually have a social life. I've really learned that with a lot of entrepreneurs, social media and society makes us feel like we're at this unbeatable stop clock, or watch clock, stopwatch.
I get what you're saying. You're when we're looking at social media, especially for me when I first started.
It's hustle culture. It's hustle culture, where it's like we always have to meet this impossible deadline, and that mindset has driven a lot of us, a lot of young people, to constantly be moving. And I think once we're moving that fast, we're missing moments. And I had to really take that into perspective and enjoy my 20s while I'm doing something so great. God calls us to community. So I had to be a part of both. So I don't know if there's a method or a rhyme to it yet, but I know it was a non-negotiable for me to be able to have a social life and a work life. And prior to figuring out how to do that, 99% of the time, my friends saw me with a laptop in my hand. So even when I was with my friends, I was still sitting there working. I had a laptop and a planner. I can specifically remember the days that I would show up to Bible study years ago with a laptop and a planner. And you have to be present where your feet are.
That's something that I struggle with too, even in my past relationship, because now I'm in my space of a loneliness and I'm alone, right? So I remember when I was in my relationship, or just other assets in life, people would always see me on my phone trying to text or call somebody. People would always try to see me do this, that, and the third, because that was the only thing I was focused on. I was driven to that. I was yearning to, I need to do this, I need to do this. So like you said, I was missing moments. So as soon as I took myself out of that, I shouldn't say took myself out of that, as soon as God took me away from that and say, yo, you need to be present here. I had a moment when I was away for a week, and I should have been present in every single day of those moments, and I wasn't. I was thinking about what I should have been doing if I did not have this time. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is really, really crazy. I never thought how lost my mind was into achieving instead of what I can do in the moment and enjoying the moment. So
I think social media has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, it was that, but also culturally as well. I don't know how you already told me how in your household as well, like you're always achieving, and then I have foreign parents, so foreign parents are always gonna push you crazy because you're a first generation. I'm a first generation American. They came from somewhere where they didn't have anything, so all they knew was the struggle. All they knew was whatever they had, they did to the best of their ability.
That makes sense.
So of course now, where you have a lot of people with a lot of opportunity, they feel as though because you're not doing it to the best of your ability, or they feel as though you're not doing it to the best of your ability, then I want to say they're not good enough, because they're always proud of you. Parents are always proud of you, but they know what they can do better.
Yeah.
It's like, let's say you get $1 million today. My parents would say, that's good, but why don't you get $2 million? That's just how they are, because they know that, yes, you got this, but you can do better. So it's a double-edged sword, right? It all depends how you look at it. It can hamper you, or it can make you a superhero. It's all how you use it. Because like we were all talking about this before, your mental and your mind strengthens whatever you have. If your mind breaks, everything else breaks. Your mind's connected to everything. So like you said, we fill ourselves with the spirit. The spirit gives energy to the mind does what the body. And the body does what the mind wants to do. So you will have to really think carefully of what you're thinking or what you're pouring into yourself. And like you said, social media is very hard, because a lot of people can't separate it and disassociate themselves from it and say, who am I?
Yeah.
What's my identity? Is my identity what a lot of people on social media are doing? Do I have to be an influencer? Do I have to do this?
Yeah.
No, it's more of what can I do?
Yeah.
How am I serving? How am I doing this for me?
Yeah.
Because a lot of things, even businesses, they do it for social media. They do it for the people. They do it for the people to see what they're doing. And a lot of people don't see who you are. They don't see Trinity. They don't see Isaiah. They see what they can get from you. They see the services. They don't see the person. And that's very hard on social media. And I really want to emphasize that, because that's how people with mental health and people don't appreciate themselves like that, don't get that reassurance, because they're seeing what you can do for me. And I understand the business world that is like that, but sometimes people want to be seen. You want to be seen for you. You don't want to be seen as just a pretty woman. You want to see it as just a pretty face.
Absolutely.
You don't want to see it as a business transaction. You want to see, how can I help you? So I really just wanted to touch on that, because that's very, people don't think about that, especially when it comes to meeting people. Who are you? Instead of, what can you do for me?
I've completely gotten rid of social media multiple times.
Really?
Multiple times. Even now. I took last year, or 2021, I think it was, 2022. I don't know, it was more recent than that. I think it was maybe even 2023. I took like an 8-month break, because I personally would not be on social media if it wasn't for my business. I think once you're in it, you're in it and you're participating in it. But if I had a choice between the two, I definitely would not. Like at one point I hired someone just to post on my social media. And so now I'm at a point where I don't even have it on my phone. I'll log in on a laptop, or I'll download it real quick just to post something, or I'll schedule posts out in advance, because I noticed that I always felt like I needed to be doing something, and I always found myself back at social media somehow, and it wasn't answering anything for me. So I think there are the good parts of social media, but it's so hard to separate yourself from that. And I know people that can do that and not kind of fall victim to those devices, but it's hard. It's really hard.
So in the process of fasting, right, not only from social media, but fasting from people, fasting from your business, throughout this long process, what are some things that you learned about yourself that you didn't know?
That's so good. So I don't know if social media definitely didn't teach me this, but there was a long pause between the end of 2023 and I don't know if I would call it a pause, but there was kind of like a lapse. Yeah, like a reconstruction phase of Trinity. Okay. Because the end of 2023 was absolutely butt for me. I had involved myself in things I shouldn't have involved myself in, mainly people. Just a group of individuals that were not anything of God. And so obviously when you're not surrounding yourself by people who are not of godly character, you're going to fall victim to the things that they're doing. And so I think also for whatever reason I had found myself, I don't know if it was a major burnout or what was going on, but it was like I completely just taken a long exhale, and I was just and I was just out for 3 months, mentally just kind of out. And I wasn't as strong in my word as I should have been, or my relationship with God wasn't as strong as it should have been. And so once I kind of got roped into that group of friends, I kind of it got crazy for a second. And so I had to step back and say, like, God, I don't know how to show up right now, but I just need you to show up for me. And I think it was probably like a month after that, because I was actually at a point where I thought I wasn't even going to do the nonprofit anymore. Because it wasn't financially doing well. It's the first time I've ever talked about this. It wasn't financially doing well. I just didn't know like the direction of like what God wanted me to do with it, because I felt like I had so many brilliant ideas and so many things that I wanted to do, but I didn't have the resources or the people to be able to do it. And I just was like, God, I don't know what to do. And he showed up. I think there's a song that I've been singing, On Time God, by, I know Chandler's in it, and so is Abby Gamboa. And the end of the song is, That's When You Show Up. So it's so good because God did show up for me. And I think during that pause, or during that isolation where God showed up for me, so I started showing back up. I was able to really kind of be like, where do I need to start afresh? And so I actually started asking people, where were areas in life that I can improve on? And a lot of things, I asked myself that question too, and it was something I prayed on. And some of the things I had to fix was my emotional response to things, because there's a difference between reacting versus responding. So I really had to learn a difference between the two. Just being very slow to react or respond. I feel like I don't really react at all. I think I respond. But another thing that I had learned during that period too, I just felt like I didn't need to always be involved in everything. I think I had kind of duped myself into thinking, because I kind of got lost in like, okay, it is my 20s and I should be experiencing and I should be doing all these things. And I got way too ahead of myself. And I was like, dial it back now. Like, what can I involve myself in that's beneficial and healthy, but also not be in places that I'm not meant to be in? So I kind of just went through this period of where I was hanging out with my friends every now and then, but I was very to myself. And I feel like it's really important for you to go, or anybody to go to someone else and be like, are there things that I can improve on? And you have to be very vulnerable and very open to whatever they're going to say. And you also have to trust the person that you're asking too, because that person could completely take advantage of that question. But I asked my parents, I asked some friends, and it really put me in a position where it was like, there's that phrase where some people don't know that their own poop stinks, basically. Like, I had to sit in that and correct that. So I learned a lot of things about myself, like emotional reaction and responding and not being involved in everything, and redirecting. And I felt like it kind of redefined my relationship with God, and I was able to show up for my nonprofit, and God really turned things around for me. And I learned a lot in that season. It was a really good season.
And one of the things I want to touch upon, because you made it very clear, was being a part of everything. As someone that you're always taking the initiative, you're always doing stuff. Once you out that date, on go. And once you do that consistently, I want to say you're kind of a control freak, but you want to take control of every situation. For me, I've been like that all my life. I wanted to take control of it. So how have you been able to just let go? Because I know deep down, that feeling, it's very hard for it to just vanish. It's very hard to diminish it to the point where you don't feel as though you need to control it. So how do you go into situations where you want to control it with all your might, but you just say, you know what, I'm going to just let it be. This is not my place to just imprint my footsteps on it every single time.
Yeah. Back to when I was talking about that job with Wawa, that's the only job that I've had, like a conventional, traditional job, or I guess you guys call it like is that considered retail?
Would Wawa be considered a retail?
No? Okay. What is it considered? Industry job? No. Wholesale?
Just call it a 9 to 5.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that.
When I was working that 9 to 5, it was not beneficial to like my nonprofit at all, as in I was getting the funds that I needed to put in back into the nonprofit. But as far as taking the time to be able to do interviews, to put in the work for my nonprofit, I couldn't do that. And so God had sat me down and said, don't have a plan B to my plan A. And the plan A was the nonprofit. I had been able to get what I needed from Wawa, and at that point I was only keeping it just because it was security. And so at that point I had kind of taken that lesson with me, where I don't need to be at every single thing, as far as if I get invited to this networking event or this place or this place or this place or this place, because I think that's kind of ultimately led to my burnout in 2023, because I felt like I needed to be there. And once you relinquish that control of, if I don't go to these things, then where does my future go, or what happens to my future, and you relinquish that to God, God's going to make these opportunities for you, not feel like you have to. It's going to be like, okay, this kind of works out for me, so I can go to this. And I think that also goes back to balance too. You have to kind of sift between like what's worth going to and what's not, because I'm telling you, not every networking event that you go to is going to bring fruit. Sometimes it's just going to be a time and a place that you participated in. So I think you have to deem what's actually worthy of your time.
I kind of like that, because let me say not kind of, I really like that because a lot of people, for a rocket ship to go outer space, right, it doesn't do a 5-second burst and it stops. It's a slowly progressive upload all the way up. So a lot of people think that, oh, I got to do this as 100% as fast as I can. You're going to burn out, like you said. It has to be a consistent upward motion. And I'm learning this myself now, is if you know you're doing the right things, you're going to get there. If you know consistently that you're doing the right things, whatever goal you have in mind, whatever facet or accomplishment that you want to achieve, you're going to get there. As long as you have a plan, as long as you're doing it consistently, you're going to get there. You don't have to overwork yourself every single day. And that's something that I'm still struggling with today, because you think, oh, I didn't do this. Oh, I failed. Yes, you can reflect. Yes, there's a lot of things you can acknowledge that you could have done better, because we can do better every single day. We're humans, we fail. But you have to understand that, hey, today I did what I had to do. I did my best, what I could do in this moment. So am I tripping? You know what I mean? Because we always do this, especially like you said, social media, comparing yourself to somebody else. Someone could walk into this door, a millionaire that's 19. We're going to be like, dang, how you get there? I want to be like you. And then you start idolizing these people, because you're idolizing them because they have something that you don't want, because they had a different path than you. Their path is not the same as you.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
So
that's
it's
my
fine.
hardest thing. It is.
But you know, it's cool though, because like we just pointed out, they had a different journey. It doesn't mean that their journey is special as yours. You have your own journey. Trinity, you have your own journey. You're going to make it to A, B, C, all the way to Z, as long as you just stay consistent. You're true to yourself. Because if you're not true to yourself, you're idolizing people, then you're going to be lost in the sauce. And we don't want to be lost in the sauce, because then you can be too salty. You don't want to be too salty, right? Too much adobo, too much sauce can be bad for business.
All right, Zay.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? You know when your mom make rice, right? And then she just puts a little bit too much salt in it. It's like And then sometimes you eat it, it's just too bland. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, my mom, she Caribbean. You know when you eat that food and it's like, dang, mom, you just put a little bit too much in. I don't know what you were trying to do. You were trying to rush it.
Too much Cajun.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking?
Not my mom.
I said not my mom.
Nah, but sometimes when you rush things, you try to do too much, and sometimes when you just sit back and relax and let it come to you, sometimes nothing happens at all. You have to find that balance. So I'm really appreciative that we just touched upon that. But now as we close out, I just want to ask you some things like, what do you do for fun? Like, what are some things that make Trinity smile? What makes Trinity always bright? Because I always say the brighter you are, the more attractive you're going to be to other people. What I mean by attractive, is people are going to think beauty because I'm with a woman. No, I'm talking about the light that's going to be a magnet to other people to bring people closer. So it's more about, let's say if you're a light and you're closer with God and you're shining, you're going to bring people closer to that because you're a magnet, you're a star. Imagine you're walking into a valley and you're dark and someone has a flashlight. You're more likely to go to them rather than be still around darkness because you're dark yourself. So if you're bringing people closer to light because how bright you are, that's a plus in itself. So what are things that make you brighter as a person so you're not as dull or you don't dull yourself? I know that was loaded, but
it was a little question. The first question wasn't as same as the last one, but I'll answer the last one. I guess the way I kind of keep my sparkle, I guess you would say, is definitely always remembering why I started what I started. And I think a lot of the times, business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever the case may be, we kind of sometimes we'll use your reference, lost in the sauce.
For sure.
And we will get away from why we started. We get away from our passions. And so one of the things that I actually had to do was I've had to go back to the start. And it's such a valuable lesson that I learned. I started this nonprofit because of Alexis. And so more recently, we've grown closer together. And a lot of the things that I struggled with the nonprofit, aside from the finances, was trying to get the word out there. And now we've done a lot better. But going back to the start and why I've done what I've done is definitely how I've been able to maintain that. Being around the kids, writing the stories. I love illustrating, or not illustrating. I love writing the books. It is, I don't know what it is, but it's just one of those things where we're like, if you know, you know, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to be able to create something or write something and then see a physical copy of it, and then to be able to see it in Barnes & Noble and Amazon and all the things that we've been able to do with it. It's a really cool thing. I'm trying to think of what else I kind of keep my sparkle. I think just definitely I'm always in the atmosphere of my business, and the atmosphere that we create obviously is to serve other people, and to have a servant's heart is something that's going to keep you grounded. It's going to keep you alive. Martino Cartier said, if you don't know how to live, if you don't know how to give. And so I really feel like there is something with constantly being in a community and serving a community that deserves to be tended to. It does something to you. And so have you been to one of my events yet? You haven't. You'll know when you go.
No, I'm gonna show up for sure.
But
it's crazy right
just
now.
being around those kids and just being around the families and really being able to see the impact that we're having on the families. And people ask, how do I measure success? It's by seeing the return investment, I guess you would call.
The ROI,
Yeah, but in this sense, we're talking about like families, like being able to see them come back and to be able to see their experiences from our nonprofit that they would not have if it wasn't for us. And being able to hear their stories and just being a part of that and knowing that you directly are creating something. Like if it didn't exist without you, where would they be? And so to be able to hear from the parents and to be able to hear from the kids, that's definitely something that continues to fuel my fire. And then Alexis, of course, always Alexis. Alexis.
So to close it out, Legacy Room is all about legacy. First, I want to ask you, what does legacy mean to you, of course? And then secondly, what do you think your legacy is now?
That's a really good question. I guess legacy to me is something to be remembered for. And I definitely hope to be remembered for the way that I served God in his kingdom and through my ministry and how many lives we were able to touch. And it'd be really cool, you know, to be kind of like the Dr. Seuss of these superhero books.
Don't say that. Manifest that. Say you are. Say you are going to be that.
Yeah, I am going to be that. I am going to be that. And so, yeah, that's definitely how I view legacy. And I forget the second part of the question.
What do you think your legacy is now?
Definitely still walking that path. If I was here today and gone tomorrow, I definitely think we would be remembered for the work that we've done in New Jersey. I know we have made a lot of history in our town and in New Jersey and the things that we are doing. And I hope that someone could kind of see the value in our work and pick up where I left off. So, if I don't finish the work, someone has breadcrumbs to follow to be able to build on that.
And then lastly, I'm going to ask you, because like I said, people don't know you for you. They know you for what you do. They know you for your results. They know you from what you provide to them, even if that's physically, spiritually. They know that side of you. Tell the audience Trinity. Raw, uncut, Trinity, what she is, why she is And yeah, just that. Yeah.
Wowza.
That's what we got to end it off on something crazy. Like I said, everyone knows you for your nonprofit. Everybody knows you for being the person always trying to help out and doing all that stuff. They don't know Trinity.
Say, how am I? Look, I wish you would have texted me that ahead of time. I never talk about myself.
That's the point, and that's what I'm going to get to. That's the point I was going to say. Because every single time you're a business, you don't put yourself first. Let's say if I ask you a question, who do you care about? You would never even say yourself first. Mm-mm. You would never even think about yourself. Never crossed my mind. And even in relationships, friendships, business relationships, everything else.
Everyone always comes before me.
Because you're trying to serve. Yeah. Right? And by serving, you're thinking, oh, by serving, I'm going to get a lot out of it, and that's fine by me. Mm-hmm. And I had to really sit back on myself and say, dang, every relationship I've been in, business-wise, friends-wise, even romantically, I've never thought about myself. Everything was about how do I serve them. I was thinking, why am I not thinking about myself in this relationship? You put yourself through so much pain, so much distraught, and you're like, dang, I didn't even put myself first.
Hey, I know what your question was. Can we also, I forgot to mention when you asked for hardships, I wanted to talk about how, there's Bible verses in my book, and I don't know if I've ever told you this. I might have.
You've never told me that
before. Colgate, is one of our sponsors, and they offered to publish us or to connect us through a publisher, but they told us that we had to take the Bible verses out. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
And I didn't.
And of course you said, nah, we're not doing that, right?
No, right, absolutely not. That's a non-negotiable.
Yeah. But that's the point that I was talking about. You always think about other people than yourself. In my personal relationships, when it comes to friendships, business, or even romantic, I never think about myself. Everything's about serving these people. And you believe, especially as a man, where our identity. I was at a Bible event the other day, and they said most of the men's identity is just to provide and protect. Right? And we don't go outside of the identity. We don't, like I was just asking you, who is Trinity, right? A lot of men, our identity is just to provide and protect. It's not who we are, right? So I said, dang, especially if you're very ambitious and you're always work-driven, you're always serving, but you're never pouring into yourself. And then you're thinking that, oh, by serving these people, you're pouring into yourself.
All right, don't be reading my mind now.
No, I'm just saying, you think by serving these people, you're pouring into yourself. And then every single time it says, what do you love or who do you love? You never say yourself. Of course you're going to say God because God's first. Of course you're going to say all these people. You're naming all these people on this list, but you never say yourself. And I literally sat down and did that because someone asked me that question, like, well, who do you love? Of course I'm going to say my brother. Of course I'm going to say God. Of course I'm going to say all these things. And I never said myself. And that really hit me because, people say that quote all the time. It's like, of course I love myself. What you mean I love myself? But if you really loved yourself, you would have took accountability for that and put yourself first in a lot of things. So have you realized that yourself, and how do you now, since you understand that, put yourself first in a lot of situations?
I feel like because I love what I do, I don't work a day in my life. And so my job is fun. Like the things that I do are fun. Yeah. Like I never feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted from working all the time. Out of the 7 years of work, I've never felt that way. So yeah, it does feel like me pouring into this, at least. It feels like I'm pouring into myself because I love what I do. Maybe not so much when I'm pouring into other people because I feel like, we're weak, we're in the flesh. And so the results of that might be a little bit different. But it's hard to separate the two because when people even ask me what my hobby is, it's like I'm working all the time. So it's kind of like my work is my hobby. Like I genuinely love going to our storage unit and organizing medical equipment. I love talking to the parents and coordinating pickup time. I love driving 2 hours away to go pick up medical equipment for someone that can't go pick it up. Like, I love it. Like,
a lot of people don't understand that.
No.
I used to say I love working, and I love it because it's my peace sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I shouldn't be saying this on here, but I really don't care. I really hate working a 9 to 5. Listen, I love the person. I love the person. I love the company. I love the morals that I'm working in. I'm extremely blessed that I have the opportunity to work there. I'm going to say that first and foremost. So they see me on here. It's crazy. But me as a person, I can't work a 9 to 5. I'm doing it right now because it's helping, like you said, sustain what I want to have going on. But I do want to have that freedom to not feel like I'm working, but feel like I'm serving. Yeah. But I know you're always going to talk about work because that's what you always do. But let's compartmentalize it real quick. Like I want to.
Say, this is not therapy session.
Hey, this is legacy room. We get to the raw
Yeah.
untruthfulness, right? So let's separate it, right?
Okay.
When it comes to your personal life, your friendships, your relationships, why do you think that you don't put yourself first? And now understanding that you don't put yourself first, how are you going to put yourself first now? Personal, alleviate business right now. We're talking to Trinity, the person.
You know what conditioning is?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's maybe it is a conditioned mindset, but I don't feel like there's anything wrong, and you can correct me. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with putting people first, because that's who and what we're called to do. So love like Jesus. And so I find gratification in that by serving other people and knowing that their needs are fulfilled if I can help it. And in some shape, way, or form, that also serves me. And maybe that's the way God designed it. Because I can see myself, the only way I could see myself putting myself first, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it, is if we're in a conversation with someone and I'm only thinking about myself in this scenario and I want to figure out me, myself, and I'm not listening to your POV or listening to what you're telling me. I think that's where I'm not putting myself first, or that's where I would be putting myself first. But I can't really separate the two. But I definitely know I'm not perfect in that. Like, I'm definitely not perfect in always putting other people first or serving people first. I definitely do, in the sense of, like, when I'm talking to people or in relationships. I'm sure definitely with my parents is a great example of me always putting myself first, you know? So there's definitely that. It definitely does happen. But as far as the terms of serving and what my first thought is when it comes to most of the relationships that I have, it is serving other people. I don't know how to separate the two.
No, that's fine. My personal opinion, I believe that's the case. I can't stop myself from serving. That's what I've learned how to do since I was a baby. That's what I was taught to do. And then when I had my own mind to formulate my thoughts and I could do everything myself, I still did it. So I believe we're on this earth to serve. And I believe by pouring into other people, also pouring into yourself, because like through your whole process, you was pouring into yourself to learn, to grow, how to control yourself, how to emotionally understand how to react and respond in the right ways. You're pouring into yourself. You're putting lessons into yourself to do that. So a lot of people misconstrued serving people while learning about yourself throughout the process, but you just said and did perfectly. So I want to applaud you for that. And I want especially the audience, to understand that, yes, you have to think about yourself and put yourself first, but you have to combine and correlate. So yes, you can compartmentalize and separate your brain and be dull, but at the same time, you want to have energy and have life. So it's okay to serve. I mean, it's okay to think about yourself in the same process, because sometimes you get hurt doing it, just like how Jesus was serving. Unless we're human, so we're going to feel it. We're human, so we're going to feel it. So it's great to serve, but at the same time, understand the capabilities of how you can serve. So if you know you're going to get hurt, how to protect yourself too.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's what I just wanted to say. Yeah. But Trinity, I want to.
I knew he was going to go back to that question.
Nah. I think that's enough for today. I think we got a lot out of you today. Okay. So I really appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate you responding and not reacting.
Oh, look at that.
Learning. I appreciate you spreading your light, and I would love to keep talking to you and have you as a partner for business, friendship-wise, and continue putting God first. And welcome to Legacy Room.
Woo! Yay! Thanks for having me.
No problem.